The reason why I was inspired to record this episode today was because of a coaching call that I had this morning with one of my clients where they are having a heck of a time setting a boundary with a person in their life. And the problem is that a lot of times we like the person that we have to set the boundary with, or we actually love them. And many times we're fearing that if we set this boundary, that one of two things or both might happen. Number one, that they may not like us. And number two, that they may leave our life. And I want to assure you that if you're having those feelings, they're based on the fact that you have hidden shame and unworthiness deep inside you, where you still believe that other people are your source of love, approval, and acceptance. So the key to healing this inside of ourselves so that we can be stronger to be able to set and maintain healthy boundaries is to give to ourselves the very things that we believe we are getting from the outside world, which is love, approval, and acceptance. And this is when we learn to unconditionally love ourselves. And when we do that, we will naturally and organically show up in the world a more empowered individual. Now, in this person's particular story, it is somebody who is providing a service to them, and they love the service provider. They not only like the person themselves, but they love the service that this person is providing, yet they're being continually disrespected by this person. It's not all the time, but it's happening enough that it is causing a problem for my client. But knowing what I know and being someone who has experienced all of these feelings myself, I know this, that many times, so many people just want to set a boundary, do this, do that at somebody, and they're just frozen. I once had a conversation with someone on another social audio app where this person kept saying, oh, I just teach my clients to set boundaries. I just tell them to set boundaries. And he's like, it's something that I repeat all the time. And I said, that's because it's not easy for some people. And he was having a really difficult time accepting that because for him, it's not difficult to set boundaries. So he really couldn't wrap his head around that. And I said, well, here's how it goes. Sometimes we might be able to set a boundary, but we can't enforce the boundary or maintain the boundary. Sometimes we could set a boundary, but we don't follow through with the action that's required if that boundary is continually disrespected. Sometimes we can't set boundaries at all. Sometimes we try to do it in a passive aggressive way. There's a lot of ways that we try to set boundaries, and it's not important to know exactly where you're at on this spectrum or why you're doing what you're doing. It's just about to know that, hey, healthy boundaries are required if I want to have really cohesive and balanced and harmonious relationships. I want to share with you guys what I believe are the 4 biggest dangers to us not setting boundaries. The first being that it's going to hurt your self-esteem and confidence. When we are repeatedly treated a certain way from somebody, do you see how my hands are going? What does that look like? It looks like one of those boxing bags, one of those boxing balls that hang from the ceiling, right? It's like we're repeatedly getting pummeled with something. And what this will do is eventually really, really break down our self-esteem and confidence. Now, a lot of times this is interesting because we don't have a lot of self-esteem, self-worth, and confidence in the first place, which has, number one, attracted this type of behavior because our relationships are a mirror to show us how we're treating ourselves. So we're going to have this disrespect coming at us, but yet our self-esteem is low already. So how do we speak up? Because now I'm afraid this person's not going to like me or they're going to leave. So that's where the quandary is for a lot of people. And that's why many people feel frozen and stuck in status quo because they don't know how to shift out of that. And this is where the self-love piece comes in and why I call myself a self-love mastery coach, because we have to heal the foundation that we're actually showing up to relationships. When we heal what's inside of us and we start to treat ourselves better, we are naturally and organically going to show up and be able to teach people how to treat us so much better than we did before. So if we don't set the boundary and we already have a shaky self-esteem or shaky self-confidence by repeatedly getting pummeled, that's going to lower even more, which is going to perpetuate the pattern. And the second reason why it's problematic if we don't set and maintain healthy boundaries is that it can build up toxic resentment in our body. Oh, okay. some of you may know this, some of you may not, that there is high emotions that actually will contribute to our general well-being. And there are lower emotions that can take away from our general well-being. And so those lower emotions can be things like resentment and anger and lack of forgiveness. And when those are really prevalent inside of us, and they're stewing, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger, they can actually wreak havoc on our physical body as well as our emotional body. And then we're going to become a fraction of the person that we were, or that we actually can be. And we are not going to show up in the world in an empowered and confident and healthy way, because we're going to be carrying around this toxic energy. So the reason why we want to set boundaries faster is, like, when it comes up, we nip it in the bud. And when it comes up, we nip it in the bud, because we are not building that toxic resentment and anger inside of ourselves. Which leads me to the third thing, which is that eventually, when we are not dealing with this behavior that's coming at us, we're not addressing it appropriately and in a healthy way, then that stuff that builds up inside of us is going to make us blow. I was a blower back in the day, and that doesn't mean there was something wrong with me, nor does it mean there's something wrong with you. It means that I didn't know how to have effectively handled disrespect and dishonor. So I would just, even unconsciously, I would push it down, or I would ignore it, or I'd let it go. I called myself easygoing because that's really what I thought I was. But really, those things were embedding inside of my body. And then it got to a place where I couldn't take it anymore, unconsciously, didn't even know. And then I ended up blowing on the other person. Now, what we say typically in those blowing sessions they're not wrong, because we're now finally speaking up about the disrespect or the dishonor. Yet, because this person hasn't heard it from us, all of a sudden we look like we are a toxic person, when really we've been the recipient of some type of abusive behavior or toxic behavior. And now we look like we are the problem. And that's many times why people will turn around and start calling you crazy, when you're not the crazy one. You're the ones that's been putting up with the ish. So it's important that we start to address these things, because when we address them in real time as they come up, number one, we're going to do it in a more calm, confident, and assertive way. Number two, we're not going to have this dense, energetic volcano that's about to erupt onto somebody. And we are more likely heard when we approach that way. Again, it doesn't make the reason, like the boundary that you need setting, that's not wrong. But it is dysfunctional to approach it in that way, because many people can't hear us. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, oh, they're going to love that. They're going to lap that up. They're going to turn that around on you, and they're going to call you crazy. And the fourth reason that it's problematic is that we are actually allowing ourselves to be abused. And I want you to think about this. I want you to think about someone that you love more than anything, that you would do anything for, that you feel very, very protective and fierce about. And then imagine just standing by and letting someone abuse them. That's what lack of setting boundaries is actually doing. We are giving people permission to repeat the behavior, because unless we say no, and we draw a very clear line that that behavior is not okay, and anytime you do this, I'm going to be over here, or this is the consequence of that behavior, then we are inadvertently telling them yes. Some people can set healthy boundaries. Some people cannot set healthy boundaries. Some people can do it a little bit. Some people can't do it at all. Wherever you're at on this spectrum, it's not necessary to figure it out and point it out. It's just to know that in order to attract and create a better experience in your life, then it is the utmost importance that you learn to teach others how to treat you through setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. So I hope you guys got a lot from this today. If you're new, I would super love if you subscribed and turn on notifications. And please feel free to leave me a message in comments. I read all of your comments to the best of my ability, and I love communicating with you guys. My goal here on YouTube is to build a community of like-minded and like-hearted seekers who want to turn into versions of their best self. So thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, remember, you matter. Now go love yourself.